you're an architectural writer, and I wondered how much having an architect father influenced your interest in architecture.
It certainly did. It certainly did. Architecture was just part of the way we lived. We were always looking at buildings, and whenever we travelled, we were looking at buildings. One of my first experiences was going with him to measure Bentley Hall, and then it was Vicenza. That was another high spot. So that when eventually I went travelling. As a student, I went out to the first Palladio course in Vicenza. So yes, architecture always been an interest.
Were you tempted to become an architect?
Not at all. My father hated the idea. He didn't think it was a good thing at all, and he didn't give us any encouragement. If we'd really been dedicated, I suppose we might have done. But although my mother was a qualified architect too, so anyway we should have. But he missed our generation, and he caught the last member of the next generation, the youngest grandchild,
George Saumaurez Smith, who's talking tonight.
That's right, yes.
Which is the first time you and he have shared a platform, is it?
I think it is, yes.
Yeah. And he will no doubt be telling us how much this has influenced his work. But do you think your father saw any future for classical architecture at the end of his life?
He kept hoping. He wrote a letter which he said, all my life I've been waiting for the revival of architecture. And he said how wonderful it would be, the world could be beautiful again. And I think he always hoped. He always hoped, but without very much conviction that it would ever come about, at any rate, in the foreseeable future.
Yes, because he went through quite difficult times, didn't he?
Classicists were really not wanted. It wasn't just that people didn't want to, didn't choose to commission classical designs, but there were very positive efforts to frustrate the inclusion of classicists. One of the problems for my father was that often he got included if people were approached to design a building, they'd put him in as the sort of obligatory classicist, and he got a bit bored with being treated like that because it was a complete waste of time. But afterwards he died just too soon for the revival of interest that came about in postmodernism, and then the postmodern classical revival that came about, the real classical revival, because there's a lot of practitioners now, there's about 40 of them.
Yes, and you've been involved in several conservation battles, I know, over his buildings.
I have done, yes. If I get to hear that they're threatened, I do what I can to make people realise what the building is and to try and encourage the idea that it should be preserved. There are a lot of people who want to do this, and if anyone knows about it and is taking a strong view, they usually get in touch with me, and I weigh in as well.
Well, I know we've worked together on one or two of these, haven't we?
Yeah, indeed.
Jack Straw's Castle, particularly.
Jack Straw's Castle is a case in point, and that it isn't a pub anymore, which is really sad, but the building is still there.
Yes, well, perhaps it will be again.